Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mama Genius Hub podcast. On the last solo episode, we talked a little bit about New Year's and New Year's resolutions and how to rework it a little bit. What I asked everyone to do, so if you haven't heard it or didn't, I'm just going to give a quick recap, is open up your curiosity. And rather than worry about all these goals and things, start first by asking yourself, what feeling do I want to feel more of in 2024? Because when we look at it, we're looking at when I get this, I'm going to be happy because I'll feel this way. Whatever that is, whether it's an object, whether it's a credential, it doesn't matter what it is. We're looking for that feeling. So let's start by just directly asking, what is that feeling I want to feel? For me, I said I want to feel a little bit more self-confidence and freedom in 2024 from just in terms of the business and things that I've been doing. And you can go listen to the podcast if you want to hear the rest on that. But now let's take that the next step as we start talking about that a little bit at the end is then now that I've figured out this feeling, what do I do next? Well, I want to start noticing, when do I feel this feeling? For me, when I'm feeling more self-confident is when I'm actually sitting here doing these videos, when I'm sitting here on podcasts, when I'm getting out in front of other people and doing these things. So those are things I need to do more of in 2024. So now I'm going to start tailoring goals towards that. So even in a couple of weeks, I have my first in-person speaking engagement of 2024. And so making sure that I'm getting out in front and doing those kinds of things to offer myself those feelings more often. So when we look at our goals, are our goals actually leading us to the feeling of fulfillment? Because the feeling of fulfillment is going to be achieving the feelings that we want. And when we're living in our genius zone, when the day just flows and the rhythm and we lose track of time because we're enjoying what we're doing, it's because we're feeling those feelings. We get lost, we're in the flow of it, and we're creating the things that our souls ask us to do. And so that first starts with identifying that feeling. So if you listen to the last podcast or you just tune in at the beginning, first step, identify what is it that you want to feel more in 2024 and why. Now, today we're going to talk about how do we identify when we're feeling it that way. But I think it becomes a lot simpler is once you start identifying, I want to feel a certain way. So for me, it was more of that self-confidence and what is it going to take in creating this new business? Because again, for me, being an entrepreneur and getting in my head about these things, I struggle actually even to use the word entrepreneur. I will still say at times I'm a stay-at-home mom. But I've been at this for 2 years. But for me, the turning point is, when does the financialness help my family as well? Instead of just me being able to do these things every day, because I do have the freedom. My husband has been been able to provide me the means to be able to work on this throughout the day when the kids are in school and things like that. So I have that aspect of freedom, but now it's looking towards the financial aspect of freedom for me and being able to help provide some of that to my family. And so what is that going to take throughout the year? So that's where I'm going to start looking at when I'm creating my goals and things or things I want to look for is, am I actually achieving these things that will make me feel this way? Because that's what we're looking for. Again, because how do we know that we're fulfilled? How do we know that we've found our purpose? It's the feelings inside of us when we're not feeling that hurried stress, rushness, especially for us moms. We love the word busy. And I want to call you out in there because I'm calling myself out right now and saying that I hide behind the word busyness. And I don't know if any of you do it as well, but what does that even mean that we hide behind the word busyness? Is that we fill our days with activities, with things that will keep us moving forward and keep us going, but not give us the space we need to actually think and figure out the things that we want. And yes, I will admit, I also have 3 kids too, and I understand that there isn't as much time when you don't have all those things going out around, but there are still pockets of time where we could say 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes nap time, or 15 minutes in the evening. We can take a pocket of time for our day to simply sit and be and ask these questions of what do I want to feel more? Why do we even want to do this? Because when we hide behind the busyness, we let the busyness direct our lives. And then we look back and pause and go, why do I feel like I'm just so exhausted that I'm not getting the things done that I wanted to get done? There's never enough time in the day. And the answer is that we haven't put direction and purpose into things that we want to do. And so, for instance, you might think about all the kids' activities that we do, right? Go from activity to activity to activity, right? But are we sitting there at the practice watching our kids engage, or are we sitting there scrolling on our phones? Question to think. Do we bring a book? And then we decide, oh, I'm too tired, I'm not gonna read. And again, those are all good. There's nothing wrong with it. And let's take the judgment out of it. What we want to do is start identifying our behaviors of when we have these pockets of time. So it depends on your ages of kids, because I would do admit 0 to 5 is kind of like the survival mode where they're all over the place, and it is harder to get those pocket times. At times they still do start to play with themselves. But we want to have a little bit of an idea of what we want to do when we do find those pockets of time, when the kids do start entertaining themselves a little bit. And for me, when that happened, I found myself just scrolling my phone either on Facebook or playing Candy Crush. And for me, when I came up for breath, all of a sudden I was like, it's an hour later. I feel like my brain has just been in a vacuum and I feel even worse. I can't like even see straight. And I just felt like I was just walking around in this fog. And I did feel even more tired because I wasn't putting my brain into a use that I wanted to. And again, this is a judgment-free zone. So if you actually enjoy that and you come up for air feeling better afterwards, then there's nothing wrong. For me, I wasn't feeling better. I was feeling worse after the fact. That's what we want to look at, is how are we feeling after the activities that we're doing or the mindless things that we're doing. And again, we all need breaks. You get that favorite show on Netflix and you want to binge watch it because you're enjoying it and it's really just taking you to another world and you feel like inspired afterwards. Do it. But what we're looking for is those things where we feel more inspired rather than deflated. And again, that's all part of finding our genius, is finding these things that we're doing and realizing what they are and that feeling that we're looking for, that we're getting. And that's what this is about, identifying that feeling and then figuring the activities that we personally do that make us feel that way more. And not hiding behind things like there's no time, I'm too busy. Because we're talking about small pockets of time to figure this out, and just sitting with that question for 15 minutes. You're waiting for the soccer game to start. You're just like, what is it that I'm looking for today? What kind of feeling am I missing or do I want more of as a mom? Those are the questions that we start to ask. And then we just start identifying, what are the activities that I'm doing when I'm doing self-care? Do I enjoy meditation? Do I enjoy reading a book? Do I enjoy journaling? Do I enjoy just sitting there with my cup of coffee and saying, I can take a few deep breaths and no one's going to bother me, and maybe having to get up 20 minutes before the kids do to enjoy that cup of coffee? That is what we're looking for. When can I feel more present in my body and just take a few minutes to go and let the thoughts flow of asking myself, what do I want to feel more of? That's what we're looking for in this busyness of motherhood, is taking those moments to ourselves and figuring out, how do I fill up my cup completely? Again, we're going to go back to the same metaphors of putting the oxygen mask on first, filling your cup first. Why? Why does it matter? Because when you've taken those moments in the morning, or maybe after they've all gone on the bus and you reset because you're not a morning person, it doesn't have to be first thing, but you do need to find those points in the day where you figure out those feelings that you want more and foster them. So you might reset, you might do it first thing in the morning. You might get all your kids on the bus or to school or nap time, whatever that time is for you to reset who you are. Because when you reset, then when they have their moments, because we're human, we're going to have the tantrums, we're going to have the you don't understand me, I hate yous. They're going to happen. You're able to just go, I'm going to take my deep breath. I'm not going to react to their comment. I'm going to let them get it out. And when they're ready, then I'm going to talk to them after they've got it out. But when we haven't filled our cup, what usually happens? We just start yelling back. Can't believe they're making me feel this way. They should be so grateful for the things I do. And we start getting defensive to the things we are instead of realizing that they're expressing their grumpiness, right? But grumpiness begets grumpiness. So when you're in a place where you're already taking care of yourself and you're not grumpy, then you're able to let that almost bounce off of you to then regroup and then respond to them rather than react. That's what this is all about. So then how do we fill our cup? It's figuring out the feeling that you personally want. Maybe it's more gratitude. Maybe it is more freedom. Maybe it is more security. Maybe it is that you're able to express your thoughts more, or that you feel people are listening to you. And so you're looking for those opportunities where you felt, because sometimes we don't feel seen and heard. And so I'd love to invite you to a women's circle where it's a different way to be seen and heard and get those ideas out. And so we're looking for those opportunities. If that is something that we feel we want more of in our life, then we look for those opportunities now that we've identified that feeling we're looking for. So again, step number 1, identify the feeling. And then number 2, what we're really talking about today is how do we find those opportunities? So for me, like I was saying, it was working on the self-confidence and being able to get out there more. And so I'm looking for more podcasts to speak on. I'm making sure I'm getting my podcasts out there. I'm looking for more speaking engagements, these things that I feel when I'm doing them, I get that feeling of self-confidence. So you want to do the same thing. So if you're looking for more kindness in your day, it starts by showing kindness to your kids. And a lot of times they are those little sponges and they start doing some of those things in return. Again, we're trying to be those role models and then they model after us. But we have to fill our cups first and look at what that feeling it is. And so identify your feeling. I'm repeating this over and over so we get this through. And then number 2, once you've identified that feeling, and it might take you a little bit, because we do get so stuck in that busyness and we're like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to keep going. That's when we hit burnout. That's when we start reacting rather than responding to our kids, is when we just keep going. So I'm going to invite you to pause to answer the question of what feeling do I want to feel more of? And that's why I'm being so repetitive in this podcast today. And then number 2, once I've identified that, what am I doing when I feel more of that? Am I a morning person? I need to make sure I'm up before the kids and again, it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 10 minutes. If I do better when I get my thoughts out of my head and I journal for 10 minutes, or if I just want to sit there with my cup of coffee and just breathe in the day. But again, it's when we set ourselves up for that feeling, then we're able to do that throughout the day. Now, maybe you're not a morning person at all and you do this at night. So you stay up a little bit later and you do some bedtime meditations, or you read your book and think through some of those things at night. And so maybe you get your kids on the bus or wherever, and then you hit a reset in your day. And that's when you do something to start your morning. Again, let's get out of this idea as moms that we have to do things in a certain order. Find the rhythm in your day that helps you fill your cup as much as possible. Maybe it's nap time. Think about it and figure out, what am I going to do to help me feel more of that during this reset time? Think one 15-minute pocket of time, morning, nap time, before the kids get home from school, reset myself. After the kids are in bed, reset myself. There's so many different pockets of time throughout the day that you can pick your 1 15 minutes, look at the feeling that you want, and then ask yourself, what actions do I need to take to help me get more of this feeling in 2024? And that's what we're looking for today, mamas, is filling our cups and feeling more of the feelings that we want to feel, and being proactive and realizing the things that we're doing to feel that way. So that's why I'm having these two podcasts go link hand in hand. I'm even recording them together, because sometimes we just need to do things together. And that's why motherhood is all about us doing this together and figuring these things out. And we don't need to do it alone anymore. So I invite you, moms, to do these two things today. Identify the feeling and think about, what are the things you're doing that make you feel that way more often. Only has to be 10 to 15 minutes pocket of time, as often as you can. Let's do motherhood together. Thanks everyone for tuning into the Mama Genius Hub podcast.